Remember when a dinosaur movie made the entire planet lose its mind? In 1993, Steven Spielberg took Michael Crichton's novel and turned it into Jurassic Park, starring Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, and Richard Attenborough. The result was animatronics that breathed, CGI that stunned, and a T-Rex roar that made every kid in America sleep with the lights on for about a week. But behind all that prehistoric chaos, there's a whole lot of weird you probably never knew. Today, we're counting down 15 weird facts about Jurassic Park. And stick around for number 1, because it changed Hollywood forever. Now, before we get started, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It helps this channel reach more nostalgic movie fans, and it keeps the raptors from figuring out how to open the door to our studio. Who's ready for some unusual sightings? Well, let's get into the countdown with number 15, the summer of the Saurian, when Jurassic Park ate the box office. In June of 1993, the entire planet had one assignment: get to a movie theater. When Jurassic Park opened to $47 million, it didn't politely break the box office record. It stomped it into the mud, blew past Batman Returns, and rewrote what a big opening even meant. Adjusted for today, that's roughly a $100 million debut on tickets that cost as much as whatever's currently buried in your couch cushions. And for one summer, everyone was watching the same movie. There were no algorithms, no spoilers, and no streaming, just one film dominating every conversation at every water cooler and every high school cafeteria in America. Then there was the logo, that unmistakable yellow, red, and black skeleton circle, originally designed by Chip Kidd for Michael Crichton's novel, became completely inescapable. Universal didn't market Jurassic Park, they unleashed it. Kenner dropped those dino-damaged toys with removable chunks of dinosaur flesh, lunchboxes showed up in every cafeteria, McDonald's rolled out the dino-sized meals where we all happily traded nutrition for a T-Rex cup we'd lose within a week, and the video games, from the SNES overhead version to the Sega Genesis side-scroller, they were punishingly hard and all rented from Blockbuster on the same Friday night. If you didn't own at least one Jurassic Park t-shirt in 1993, someone should have checked your pulse. Number 14, the satellite director, when Spielberg was in two worlds at once. In 1993, Steven Spielberg pulled off something that would cause a modern filmmaker to immediately log off and call a therapist. He was directing one of the most technologically ambitious blockbusters ever made, and one of the most serious dramas in cinema history at the same time. Spielberg had already relocated to Krakow, Poland to shoot Schindler's List. During off hours, he'd review footage and effects notes from a giant digital T-Rex stomping through the rain. He later admitted the tonal whiplash left him emotionally drained. And this wasn't FaceTime or Zoom. In 1993, reviewing CGI remotely was almost unheard of. Spielberg relied on a satellite-equipped post station in Poland to receive footage from ILM in California. It was bulky, expensive equipment that transmitted footage at a fraction of the quality we'd expect today. The man was reviewing dinosaur animations via satellite, while the rest of us were still trying to figure out call waiting. Because he was stretched so thin, Spielberg leaned on George Lucas. Lucas and his team at Skywalker Sound helped with final sound work and post-production support. So if Jurassic Park feels absurdly polished for a film finished under that much pressure, that's because Spielberg and Lucas were basically tag teaming it across two continents. So the next time your Wi-Fi drops during a Teams call, just remember, in 1993, Spielberg was reviewing dinosaur footage via satellite from a production office in Krakow. Number 13, when Mother Nature crashed the set. The storm scenes on Isla Nublar felt a little too real for a reason. During the final weeks of filming on Kauai, a massive storm rolled through and threw the entire production into chaos. Cast and crew were evacuated into reinforced areas of their hotel, sets were damaged, and schedules pretty much evaporated. And then there was Sir Richard Attenborough. While the rest of the room sat around quietly contemplating their life choices, the man playing John Hammond found a corner and fell sound asleep. When someone asked how he could possibly nap while a storm was tearing the island apart, he repeatedly shrugged it off, explaining that growing up during wartime had given him a very different definition of bad weather, which, respect. Some of the storm footage you see in the finished film isn't Hollywood magic at all. The production team captured real storm conditions just before they were forced to shut down. practical wind, rain, and ocean shots that ended up more convincing than anything they could have staged. When the weather cleared, the island's infrastructure was a mess and the production was stranded. The unlikely hero, though, was Fred Sorensen, a real-life pilot who also happened to play Jock, the seaplane pilot from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Sorensen helped arrange flights off Kauai after the storm hit, getting the stranded cast and crew off the island when commercial options were unavailable. Talk about life finding a way. Number 12, the Mr. DNA shortcut, when science got a Saturday morning makeover. Jurassic Park somehow explained cloning to an entire generation, and we all just nodded along like, yeah, that checks out. In Michael Crichton's novel, the science takes up pages and pages of dense dialogue. Restriction enzymes, DNA sequencing, molecular theory. It's great for a book, but it's absolute death for a summer blockbuster where half the audience is a kid with raisinets. Early script versions leaned harder on straight exposition, characters sitting through lengthy explanations that grounded the momentum to a halt. Spielberg immediately saw the problem, so he turned it into a cartoon. Enter Mr. DNA, a goofy grinning mascot who boiled terrifying science down into a 2-minute explainer that felt more like Schoolhouse Rock meets a theme park safety video. To seal the deal, they cast veteran cartoon voice actor Greg Burson, known for stepping into classic Hanna-Barbera and Looney Tunes roles, giving Mr. DNA that warm, friendly tone straight out of Saturday morning television. And here's the part nobody talks about. Mr. DNA is actually satire. He's proof of how John Hammond commodified science, turned something profoundly reckless into a cheerful attraction with a gift shop at the end, and it worked perfectly. We all walked out genuinely believing that if you found a mosquito trapped in amber, boom, that's a dinosaur. Honestly, I'm still waiting for the Mr. DNA t-shirt to make a proper comeback. Number 11, the rhythm of fear, when bass vibrations summoned the T-Rex. Forget the teeth, forget the roar. The moment that made an entire theater hold its breath was a glass of water sitting on a dashboard. That moment was pure Spielberg restraint. No monster reveal, no roar, just the impact. And the idea came from driving around. Heavy bass from his stereo making the rearview mirror vibrate in a slow, rhythmic pattern. Some versions of the story even name-drop Earth, Wind, and Fire on the speakers. Either way, showing the effect of something massive approaching was way scarier than showing the thing itself. So he told his effects team, I want to do that with a cup of water. Easy, right? Not even close. The crew tried everything. Speakers under the dashboard, vibrating the set, physically shaking the vehicle. Nothing worked. Instead of clean ripples, the water just sloshed around like a spilled soda at a drive-thru. The breakthrough came from effects supervisor Michael Lantieri. His solution is a thin string fed through the bottom of the cup, down through the dashboard of the Ford Explorer and into the floor of the set. A crew member hidden beneath the vehicle vibrated the string at the right frequency. The vibration traveled straight up, and suddenly, there it was. Those perfect, terrifying ripples. One of the most heart-pounding moments of our childhood came from a bass-rattling rearview mirror on the highway. Spielberg turned it into cinema with a cup of water and a piece of string, though. Number 10, the chaos of the unbuttoned shirt, when Malcolm became a legend. Ask any Gen Xer to name the most unforgettable visual from Jurassic Park, and it's a dead heat between the T-Rex roaring in the rain and Jeff Goldblum reclining like a Renaissance painting with his shirt wide open. That moment was never in the script. In the scene, Ian Malcolm is laid up after his heroic flare distraction, nursing a broken leg. Goldblum figured a man who just outrun a dinosaur would be sweaty, overheated, and visibly wrecked. So between takes, he leaned into the idea, loosening the shirt, opening it up, and physically playing the aftermath. Spielberg saw what was happening and did the smartest thing a director can do. He kept the cameras rolling. Nobody thought they were creating a moment. It was meant to be gritty, but instead, it became one of the most recognizable images in 90s cinema. Endlessly parodied, turned into Funko Pops, slapped on throw blankets, and eventually immortalized as a 25-foot statue in London for the film's 25th anniversary. A 25-foot statue of a man lying down with his shirt open. That happened. Now, let's be honest. Half the reason people still remember chaos theory isn't the math, it's because Goldblum looked that confident while explaining it. Number 9, the great dino myth busting, when Hollywood rewrote paleontology. Jurassic Park convinced an entire generation of two things about dinosaurs, and both were completely wrong. Let's start with the raptors. The actual Velociraptor mongolensis was roughly 30 pounds, likely feathered and dangerous to small prey, but it wasn't exactly opening heavy industrial kitchen doors. The movie raptors were actually modeled after Deinonychus, a larger, more powerful cousin. But Deinonychus sounded more like a medical condition than a blockbuster monster, so Crichton had already opted for Velociraptor in the novel, a name that sounded fast and cinematic, like a high-end sports car that bites back. Accuracy lost, and the vibes, they won. And the cosmic punchline was, while the movie was finishing production, paleontologists announced the discovery of Utahraptor, a massive new species with proportions eerily similar to the film's raptors. Stan Winston famously joked, "We made it, then they discovered it." Now, the other big lie. Alan Grant whispering, "Don't move, he can't see you if you don't move." That became a Gen X survival lesson. One problem though, it was completely wrong. T-Rex had forward-facing eyes with strong binocular vision and massive olfactory bulbs. Basically, it's the dino equivalent of a bloodhound. Standing perfectly still while sweating through your khakis wouldn't have fooled anything. So why did Spielberg sell us this? In the novel, the dinosaurs were patched together with modern DNA, including frogs. Spielberg leaned into that ambiguity because watching a terrified kid try not to twitch while a 7-ton predator glares down is way more cinematic than instant death. Great movie, terrible textbook though. Number 8, the Dilophosaurus, the biggest 90s gaslight in Jurassic Park. Every kid in 1993 learned the same lesson the hard way. If something in Jurassic Park looks friendly, you're already in trouble. The Dilophosaurus doesn't roar, doesn't stomp, it just tilts its head, makes a friendly little chirp, and then permanently rewires your trust in small creatures. But the version we saw on screen was basically a sci-fi monster wearing a dinosaur costume. The venom? There's zero scientific evidence that any dinosaur could spit venom. That was Crichton's invention. The vibrating neck frill is completely fabricated as well, inspired by the modern frilled lizards. And the size? In real life, Dilophosaurus was over 20 feet long. The movie version was deliberately shrunk so it wouldn't be confused with the raptors. Spielberg wanted it to feel harmless, the kind of thing you'd walk toward with your hand out right up until you deeply regretted it. Even the sounds were designed to create a false sense of safety. That little hooting noise before the attack, it was designed to make you relax, just long enough to stop paying attention. We all remember that moment, Nedry slipping in the mud, the glasses, the slow realization that this wasn't a gag, it was a nightmare wearing a smile. It's the reason that to this day, none of us trust anything that looks like it wants to play fetch. Okay, we're halfway through the video, so I'm gonna take a quick pause, and if you're enjoying this trip through Isla Nublar, hit that like button and subscribe. It keeps this channel running smoother than a Ford Explorer on a clear day, which, let's be honest, didn't last long in this movie. Alright, let's get back to the countdown with number 7, the 15-minute masterclass, Spielberg's lesson in less is more. Now, here's a number that will mess with your head. The dinosaurs in Jurassic Park are on screen for about 15 minutes, total, in a 127-minute movie. And of those 15 minutes, less than 6 are CGI. Spielberg understood that keeping the dinosaurs rare made every appearance feel like an event. By limiting the CGI, the ILM team could obsess over every scale, every blink, every strand of drool. That's why the effects still hold up over 3 decades later. He'd learned this the hard way on Jaws. The shark kept breaking, so he hid it. Audiences lost their minds anyway. It's the same playbook here. Hide the dinosaurs, let the jungle do the work. Then there's the physical weight. When the T-Rex presses down on the roof of the Ford Explorer, that car actually sags. That's an animatronic weighing up to 13,000 pounds bearing down on real metal. The actors aren't reacting to a tennis ball on a stick. That's Stan Winston's domain. His team built raptors that could act and a T-Rex that could breathe, blink, and bite, all entirely mechanical. The full-sized Rex required specifically modified soundstage space just to operate. 15 minutes of dinosaurs, 3 decades of awe, Spielberg proved that restraint hits harder than spectacle. Number 6, the raptor's weird love language. You can close your eyes during Jurassic Park, but it doesn't help. Those raptor sounds will find you anyway. Sound designer Gary Rydstrom constructed the raptor vocals by layering dozens of animal sources into something entirely new, and one of the most infamous ingredients is tortoises during mating. That harsh, barking quality woven into the raptor calls came from a very private, very unromantic moment in the reptile world. Rydstrom layered those recordings with aggressive bird hisses for the threat displays, heavy animal breathing for physical presence, and high-pitched marine mammal distress calls for the sharper shrieks, like that freezer squeal that made every kid in the theater grab the armrest. In 1993, this was painstaking work. There was no massive pre-built libraries to pull from. You went out into the real world, recorded animals doing strange things, and reshaped those sounds into something that had never existed before. So the next time you rewatch that kitchen scene, just remember, those raptors are stalking two kids while partially powered by tortoise mating calls, and somehow, it's still one of the most terrifying sequences ever filmed. Number 5, the T-Rex that hated rain. 13,000 pounds of animatronic dinosaur, and the one thing that nearly shut it down wasn't a power failure, it was a rainstorm. During the rain-soaked breakout sequence, the full-sized animatronic T-Rex was getting absolutely drenched. The thing was built with foam latex skin, basically a giant sponge. As the rain kept pouring, the Rex soaked up dangerous extra weight, stressing its internal systems and triggering electrical glitches. The result was a shivering, twitching, multi-ton mechanical dinosaur having a full-on meltdown between takes. So the crew became the world's most overqualified towel squad. Sponges, rags, handheld hair dryers. Imagine being an Oscar-winning effects artist and your primary job is blow-drying a giant dinosaur's armpits. But the real unease came during lunch breaks. Water that had seeped inside would trigger unexpected electrical faults, causing the thing to lurch forward, shift its jaws, or groan, all completely on its own. Stan Winston described the set as genuinely unnerving. A lifelike predator that could suddenly come alive without anyone touching a control. Even on the most expensive movie of its time, the biggest star on set was basically a moody diva who hated getting wet and threw tantrums in the rain. And that's exactly why the scene still feels so real, because on some level, it kinda was. Number 4, the hero of Jurassic Park, how the T-Rex stole the finale. If Spielberg had stuck with the original ending, the most famous dinosaur in movie history would have sat out the entire finale. In early drafts, the finale was a much quieter affair. The humans were supposed to outsmart the raptors using the visitor center's environment. Doors, hallways, skeleton displays as weapons. Tense, sure, but it's not the kind of ending that makes an audience leap out of their seats. But Spielberg realized something while watching the dailies. The audience was obsessed with the T-Rex. Every scene with that thing was electric, so why bench the biggest star for the entire third act? He scrapped the environmental ending. Instead, the T-Rex comes smashing through the visitor center to attack the raptors while the humans happen to survive in the chaos. And that shot of the "When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth" banner fluttering down in front of the roaring Rex, reportedly added late in production, turning a rescue scene into a coronation. That single decision changed how audiences felt walking out. Instead of escaping the dinosaurs, they were cheering for one. The T-Rex went from the thing that terrified you in the rain to the thing that saved your favorite characters in the finale and cemented the Rex as the face of the entire franchise. Number 3, from greedy CEO to grandpa of dinosaurs. John Hammond walks through Jurassic Park in a white linen suit, tasting ice cream while his dream collapses around him, and somehow you feel sorry for him. That was never the plan. In Crichton's novel, Hammond was more shark than granddad. He yelled at his grandchildren, obsessed over profits, and dreamed of selling tiny genetically engineered mini elephants as luxury pets. And when nature fought back, a fall down a hill, a broken ankle, and a pack of compies finishing the job. No tearful farewell, no redemption, just lunch. Spielberg wanted a Hammond you could root for, the kind of man who reminded you of Walt Disney tinkering with impossible ideas. With Richard Attenborough stepping into the role after a 14-year acting retirement, mind you, Hammond became the gentle, wide-eyed dreamer watching his life's work fall apart in real time. A cold billionaire getting eaten by his own creations? That's just karma. A kind old man standing in a crumbling dining room, staring at a melting ice cream, realizing his grandchildren almost died because of his ambition, that hits different, and that's the version that sticks with you. Number 2, James Cameron almost made Jurassic Park an R-rated nightmare. Jurassic Park almost had a very different director and a very different body count. In 1990, multiple directors wanted Michael Crichton's manuscript, but 2 names were at the front of the line: Steven Spielberg and James Cameron. Spielberg secured the rights first, thanks to Universal's existing relationship with Crichton. Cameron's vision? Something like Aliens, but with dinosaurs. Forget awe and wonder, his dinosaurs would have been relentless killing machines. An R-rated survival horror film. Dark hallways, high body counts, and the kind of tension where nobody feels safe for a single second. And the casting? Spielberg gave us Sam Neill's quiet intensity and Jeff Goldblum's eccentric charm. Given Cameron's track record, it's hard not to picture someone like Schwarzenegger stomping through Isla Nublar with heavy artillery. Less life finds a way and more get to the chopper. Cameron later praised Spielberg's approach, the balance of awe and terror, wonder before fear. That balance is what made the movie a cultural event instead of just another creature feature. But let's be honest, there's still a part of all of us that wants to see Cameron's version. Somewhere in a parallel universe, that movie exists, and it's terrifying. Meanwhile, Spielberg doing Avatar is also kind of... Never mind, let me get on to number 1, the digital Big Bang when dinosaurs went digital. Phil Tippett, the king of practical creature effects, was building go-motion dinosaurs. Frame by frame, shot by shot, everything was on track. But then a guy named Steve Spaz Williams at ILM decided to go rogue. Williams wanted to see if computers could do it better. He was told no, the tech wasn't ready. He went ahead anyway. Working nights on his own time, he secretly animated a fully digital T-Rex skeleton walking across a screen. It was fluid, terrifying, and alive. When Spielberg walked into ILM, the monitor was still on. He saw it, and his jaw hit the floor. The team added skin, texture, a full render, and suddenly the impossible became real. Phil Tippett was in the room. He watched his life's work, decades of stop-motion mastery, get upstaged by pixels in a matter of minutes. He leaned over and said what would become one of the most quoted lines in visual effects history: "I think I'm extinct." Spielberg loved it so much, he reportedly worked it into the script. Dr. Malcolm's dry observation about extinction, that's believed to have come straight from Tippett's gut punch of a reaction. Now, here's the thing, Tippett never disappeared. Spielberg kept him on as a dinosaur supervisor. His job? Use his decades of expertise in animal movement to guide the digital animators. How should a wreck shift its weight? How does a raptor turn its head before it strikes? Tippett's knowledge made the CGI feel real. One unauthorized animation test, done in secret on someone else's time, changed the entire trajectory of Hollywood filmmaking. Every CGI creature that followed traces a line back to that moment at ILM, the moment Steve Williams hit play and Spielberg saw the future. That's not a movie fact. That's the moment every dinosaur, alien, and superhero you've seen on screen since 1993 became possible, all because one guy stayed late and hit play. And hey, there you have it. 15 weird facts about Jurassic Park you probably never knew. Which one caught you off guard, and do you have one that we missed? Drop it in the comments, and if you've been holding on to one of those McDonald's dino-sized cups since '93, honestly, we're impressed and a little concerned. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time with more nostalgic deep dives. Until next time, this is Remember When.